All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pike's Place Hoops Market Podcast. I'm Alec. He's Mike. We're back here for another episode. We did one, I believe it was going on a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I believe Rutgers has played 3 games since the last time I recorded, so we're going to talk about them. We got a big game coming up this weekend about the Big Ten opener against Illinois. But yeah, so that should be exciting. But of course, be sure to follow and subscribe on all podcasting platforms. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Pike's Place Pod. And then, of course, we're part of the Big Banter Sports Network, so be sure to follow them as well, all the podcasts, and including the Big Banter Sports one as well. And, of course, check out bigbantersports.com. A lot of fun Big Ten stuff, a lot of great stuff. That's where you can find all the podcasts as well. So, of course, be sure to check all that out. But back to Rutgers. So first, we'll just go through some of the games that Rutgers has played since the last time we recorded. When we did record our first and I guess last episode, it was the night before the Georgetown game, which Rutgers ended up winning 71-60. So I guess we could talk about the Georgetown game. Big takeaways. What were you most impressed by? There's definitely a lot to be impressed about.
Yeah, so that was really since Princeton, like our first test of the season, obviously after Princeton, being that the teams we played before them were a couple cupcakes. They played well. There was definitely some room for improvement, but they pushed the lead out to like 18 points, I believe, in the second half. Kind of coasted the last 10, 15 minutes of the game. Simpson had a big game, 15 points. Griffiths was decent off the bench, but their defense played really well. I remember looking up at some point during the game, and it was like Georgetown had like 12 turnovers and 2 assists. So it was, real good defense. Pretty much since the Princeton game, we've been playing really good defense. Our biggest weakness has still been rebounding, and Georgetown killed us on the glass. Some of that was Mutombo. Mutombo was absolutely huge to see in person. Like I knew he was big, 7'2", but that's a big guy right there. So yeah, defense definitely played well. It was good to see them bounce back. Since their loss to Princeton and beat a high major, or I guess is group of five, or what does Big East consider, group of five or power five?
I
They're
think I
not
think it's
power
like
five.
I think it's technically the Power Six in basketball, and the Big East is part of that.
Okay. So a power six opponent. So it was good to see them, win pretty easily and move on from that. So yeah, Georgetown, pretty good, pretty easy win for us after, a slow start. And yeah, they played well.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed with the effort because Georgetown they got talent, but the problem is they just have not gelled at all because I was on the broadcast for the game, so I had to make up all the notes and stuff. And by my count, I think it was like 12 of the 14 or 15 players on the roster had transferred, not just this year, but like had transferred, period. And I would say about, I don't know about half, but like 6 of them had just transferred in this year. So they got a lot of gelling to do. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully that win looks pretty good. I guess the thing is always root for whoever Rutgers plays, because if you lose to them, that means the loss isn't that bad. And if you beat them, that means the win looks even better. So, Dontrez Styles had a pretty good game. I was surprised by him. Supreme Cook looked pretty good in terms of, playing down low and all that. 6 points and 6 rebounds. Jaden Epps, I was very impressed by, mostly because he got injured, got a little banged up early on in that game, and he still managed to fight through it and play a pretty good game. Like, he was starting to take over the game at some points, especially in that second half when Georgetown started to, make a little bit of a comeback, but then Rutgers shut it down. I was pretty impressed with them. Yeah, so they got some gelling to do. For the Rutgers side, I think that was the first game where it was like the press really showed that it can, be back and do something pretty strong for the Scarlet Knights team. Like, like you said, you don't take too much away from the games against, Bryant and Boston University, but against Georgetown, the press looked really good. Especially with Noah Fernandes and Derek Simpson, and then Jermichael Davis as well, being at the head of that 2-2-1. I was really impressed with them. Noah Fernandes, this was kind of the game where he started to like break out a little bit. He had struggled a little bit. Derek Simpson was awesome, hit some big free throws, even when the game was out of reach. Andre Hyatt was pretty good as well. So yeah, I mean, like you said, a pretty good game. Definitely some things to work on, like you said, rebounding. We're going to talk about that in a little bit as well, a little bit more rebounding, but a good win in the final edition of the Gavitt games. And I also got to experience the Ed Cooley post game press conference experience. For those who haven't heard what went on, it was very interesting. Yeah, I'm sure everyone's heard what's happened, but I'll just go through it quickly just in case. So Ed Cooley, after the game, his team, the road team usually goes first in the post game pressers. So it was him, Jaden Epps and Rowan Brumbaugh, one of the guards, one of the redshirt freshman guards, and which is surprising because you don't usually bring players to an opposing press conference. It's usually just the coach, but whatever. So he got a few questions. There was only one Georgetown person in the building, or not in the building, in the press room. And he asked some questions. There was a couple questions from Rutgers people, and then it opened up to student athletes. So then there's one question to Brumbaugh, and then I asked Jaden Epps, what was the difference between this year's team and last year's Rutgers team, since he was at Illinois when Rutgers faced them last year. And I didn't get a great answer, but I'm not expecting him to give me a full detailed breakdown of what Rutgers does differently this year than last year to a kid whose team just got run off the floor. But then Ed Cooley decides to go off on a tangent that basically consisted of him saying, don't be afraid to ask me tough questions. We owe it to you, all that stuff, as advice to young journalists everywhere, which, he's right. It's a great piece of advice, because, you can't be afraid to ask these questions. You can't be starstruck that, wow, Ed Cooley, I'm about to ask him a question or anything like that. But it was just a little weird for the time and place. But that was a fun experience. It was an experience. All right. But yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if it was you or someone else tweeted out they survived the lump on a log allegations by Ed Cooley. That had me cracking up. I don't know if you mentioned it when we were before that. This was also the JaMychal Davis breakout game against Georgetown. He had the steal and dunk, and he also hit a 3-pointer, which I didn't know he had that in him. Guy went under his screen, pulled up, and hit a 3. So if we can get the foul shooting to follow suit with JaMychal Davis, then we could have a full-on breakout. But yeah, great game, great bounce back against another quality opponent, or Power 5, Power 6, whatever you want to call them. They might not be that high quality, but anyway. So it was good to get that, and they've been winless. Geez, they've been undefeated since. So they're moving in the right direction. After that game, though, I thought Howard, even though we ended up winning by 22 points, I thought Howard was really good. They had Seth Towns on the roster, who I think he's coming off his parents' insurance after this year. I mean, I think he's close to being able to run for president with however many years he's been in college. He hit some tough shots. He plays well for them. But they were hitting some of the most ridiculous 3-pointers. I was getting flashbacks at a Hofstra and IT game. They were just throwing up prayers, and they were going in, and then eventually Rutgers pulled away. The two big players in that game, Derek Simpson had I think it was a career high 23 points, and Cliff had a strong double-double, 15, 14, and 4 blocks to go with it. So I don't know if you were in Vegas for this game or if you were there. What were your thoughts on Rutgers Howard?
Yeah, I wasn't there. I was home for some family stuff, since it was just about time for break. But yeah, I was impressed. I was pretty impressed by Howard. I was a little bit worried coming in because they're supposed to be a solid team, and I think you're right. Seth Towns is 26 years old, so I think he's well past the off your parents' insurance age limit. So I mean, good for him for sticking it out. He's still putting up numbers in the college game 8 years in. It's funny. I started my freshman year of high school when Seth Towns was a freshman at Harvard, and I graduate from college in 6 months. So that's a little scary, just for me personally. But yeah, I was really impressed, especially Derek Simpson. I mean, he really came out and did what he needed to do. Like you said, career high 23 points. It seems like this was the game where he really started to round into form, because he definitely struggled to start off the year. You could see it against Georgetown, but this is the game where he really put it all together. And then, yeah, Cliff really did what he needed to do down low as well. I mean, they didn't have a lot of size. Howard didn't have a ton of size. I mean, Seth Towns at 6'9" is one of their taller rotation players. Dom Campbell only played 5 minutes. So there wasn't a ton of size for Cliff to go up against, but he did what he needed to do. 15, 4, and 4. Pretty great stat line. And yeah, I mean, I was a little worried about this game going in. And Howard actually started pretty hot. I mean, they were up 11-4 5 minutes into the game. But I'm glad that they took care of business and, did what they needed to do and got that game out of the way, because, yeah, I mean, I was a little bit worried coming into that game, but they took care of business. And then after that, it was, Peichel said it something similar himself. Like, all right, this is we played a lot of basketball. I think that was their 4th game in 9 days. And then they had a 9-day break, which felt like forever for Rutgers fans, I'm sure. And then that was basically the game where it's like, all right, get past this, and then you can get a break, and then, get a reset and then get back into your schedule. So They took care. I said it a bunch of times already. They took care of business, did what they needed to do. Great win.
I think the main takeaway I got out of this game was I think this was finally the game, whether you want to say the light bulb went on or he got, caught up to speed in terms of, from last year missing time with injury to coming back this year. I think this was a big game for Noah Fernandes. We said in our first podcast, he had 10 points against Princeton, but it was on 3 of 10 shooting. And then I think he had like 5 points the next game. And whatever he did, 10 points in game 3, we know he could score. We know, if you look at his career, he's had 28, 29 in a game. Not expecting that for him at Rutgers, but we need him to be more aggressive. I think I texted you during the Georgetown game, and maybe they listened to the podcast because he came out in the last 3 games way more aggressive than he did in the first 3 games. Guys going under screens, he's hitting threes. Guys not going over screens, he's attacking, getting in the lane, throwing the lob to Cliff. That's what we missed. I think the Wolf has thrown 1 or 2 lobs to Cliff. I think that Noah lob to Cliff might have been the first guard to Cliff lob we've seen all season. I'm probably wrong, but there's not been more than 2 or 3. So it was great to see Noah, get more acclimated and take the next step for Rutgers this year. And he followed that up, obviously, in the St. Peter's game with an even better game. So I think that's huge. That was huge for Rutgers. Like you said, can't say enough about Simpson. When Simpson's able to just attack, get downhill, he's really, really good. And he's shooting 50% from 3 on the season, only 10 attempts. But if he's going to hit out perimeter shots, we know he can get downhill on anyone. The Simpson breakout could be here. And with Cliff, people that are expecting him to get 20 and 10, it's not going to happen. He doesn't have the offensive repertoire, but that doesn't mean he can't get you 17 and 8 one night or 12 and 12 one night. Like, he's going to have games like this, 15 and 14, 12 and 12. Then he'll have a 20-point game. He had 17 the other night. I'm not saying he can't do that, but he's not going to come out and have 20 and 10 and be an All-American. It's just not in his repertoire right now. But those guys have been playing well. It was, they pushed the lead out to 20 points, won by 22, did what they needed to do, and headed into Thanksgiving on a high note. So everything was positive after the Princeton game so far.
Yeah, and I the thing that I've probably been the most, I guess, surprised by or happy with on the Noah Fernandes front has been his game on defense, really, because he has really shown an ability to get at it on defense. And as a smaller guard, you need that effort level that's just at a higher level than everyone else. And, maybe he's not the best athlete. I at least I thought he wasn't the best athlete, but I've seen that guy get up. I mean, that guy's got some major hops. But yeah, I've been really surprised with how good he's been on the defensive end, especially in that, pressure offense. He can just stay in front of a guy and he's just not going to let you get past him. And so I had a feeling the offensive game would come around, but the defense has really surprised me. And we saw that in the past 2 games, especially. So that's on Noah Fernandes. That's probably where I've been the most surprised by and really the most impressed by with him.
Yeah. You saw that. I think that chase down block happened right in front of you. So, I didn't know 5'10", 5'11". He had a chase down block. That might have been his first career chase down block, but it was pretty good for him. Yeah, the Howard game. Howard's definitely going to be a team that will help boost Rutgers' resume. I don't mean that in terms of it's going to decide their resume, but you need big wins to make the tournament, but you also need the bottom of your resume to come up a little bit and help lift you up a little bit. And I think Howard's going to do that. They almost knocked off Cincinnati. I wouldn't be surprised what are they in the MEAC? Wouldn't be surprised if they win the MEAC. Yeah, they're in the MEAC. So, we're going to root for Howard. They almost beat Georgia Tech. They almost beat Cincinnati. They got bloused by James Madison. So it is what it is. James Madison is on a roll, I guess. Are they still undefeated? They're 6-0. They're ranked 22. So no bad loss there. But no, Howard was a good win. It was a good building from Georgetown and Howard, and heading into the last game before this episode, which was St. Peter's. You were back in the crowd. I saw you front row with the Riot Squad. How'd you feel about St. Peter's?
Yeah, I mean, it felt really the start was not great, but I felt like once they started to watch the ball go in the basket, they would get a little bit better with just, finding good looks. And I think I forget who it was. I think it's like a double what's double credit that I'm looking for. I think I saw something from Danny Breslauer on Twitter who said he saw from someone else somewhere else. I'm blanking on where he saw it from, but he said that St. Peter's shot to rebound, which I think was right because my goodness, they were awful from the field and from 3 point, and they crushed it on the boards. I mean, at one point, I'm pretty sure in the first half I looked up and St. Peter's was outscoring Rutgers 25-7. And at the end of the game, they ended up finishing, let's see, it was 51 rebounds for St. Peter's compared to 40 for Rutgers. So the rebounding has to fix itself. 22 offensive rebounds just kind of can't really happen. That's an insane number that you don't see too often. But again, Rutgers did what they needed to do, especially on defense as well. And I felt like the offense has gotten a little bit better, and that's also where we saw the Noah Fernandes continued breakout. I mean, he had 19 points, 5 of 7 shooting from inside the 3 point line, 9 of 9 from the free throw line. That's probably where he's going to be. That's probably where he's going to be needed most from the free throw line to make those key free throws late. But it was not a pretty game. I'll tell you that much. Rutgers didn't score until I think it was 4 minutes into the game, and then it was just kind of a rock fight for the rest of the first half. But then the second half, they completely blew him out of the water. That pressure defense was huge. They forced 23 turnovers. So the rebounding has to be improved. But I thought the defensive game was really good. Noah Fernandes was excellent. Yeah, that was kind of like where my two big takeaways were. And also, it was nice to be back in the student section, I will say, because that was the first game all year I had been in the student section for a variety of reasons. So it felt good to be back there.
Hey, it's always good to see the Riot Squad out in full force, and I feel like you're one of the. I don't know if there's like an official leadership of the Riot Squad, but if you're not the president, I feel like you're up there.
I'm not the president. Shout out Frankie. Frankie's
Okay.
great.
I don't
But
know. I didn't
yeah.
know. I've never been part of the Riot Squad. I have no idea how it works, but I'll leave that up to you. Anyway, a little inside info on the rebounding, as you know where I sit, where things I hear, information I'm privy to. The coach that sits right in front of me is Coach Larkin, and all game, this is all you hear from him: down 15 in rebounds, down 12 in rebounds, down 18 in rebounds. I feel like he was trying to get Pike just riled up to obviously get the team riled up. It got closer. They ended up down 13 at the end of the game. Yeah, the offensive rebounds needs improvement. I think if and when Mag returns, that will help because rebounding is energy, it's effort, obviously it's positioning. Cliff has no problem boxing his guy out, but it's like you ever play 2K? I don't know if you play 2K, but if you play 2K in the rec, the center goes for the rebound and everyone runs up the court. That's kind of what happens with Rutgers. Cliff goes for the rebound, nobody else is helping him. So I know Mag is going to improve, obviously, with his athleticism, with his effort. He's going to improve the rebounding. So I think when Mag comes back, I'm not saying Mag is going to become Dennis Rodman over here, but he should help with that. The other thing is, it's a funny tidbit. When Derek got the lane violation, Pike just walks up and down the bench and goes to like Austin Williams, Jermichael Davis, goes, this kid hasn't gotten a rebound all night. And when our best free throw shooter's on the line, he goes and gets a lane violation. We started cracking up like, what are you doing, Derek? You're 6'2", like you're not getting the rebound even if he misses. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, the rebounding. Pike took like the not Notre Dame, the North Carolina script of how to get good. It's play defense, it's rebound the basketball, and then hope your guys make shots. Obviously, that's been the case for us for like 5 years, except this year seems to like it's kind of gone downhill. So hopefully, when we get back to full strength, we'll see the rebounding numbers uptick. We're going to need it against a team like you could get away with not being a good rebounding team against St. Peter's. It's not going to work against Illinois. So definitely need to improve going into Illinois.
Yeah,
And maybe
and
we see Mag.
yeah, hopefully. I mean, I thought we were going to see him on Monday night. There were some rumors flying around, but ended up not happening. But yeah, I mean, there was I will say the rebounding, it's definitely not going to work like that against Illinois. And I'm looking through the box score right now. I didn't realize it until just now, but Latrell Reed, I'm looking at Ken Palm right now. Latrell Reed had an offensive rating of 6, which is, I think 100 is average. I don't think 100 is average, but when let's see, by my count, 7 different Rutgers players had an offensive rating over 100. That's not very good. The guy went 0 for 9 from the floor. There were guys in the row behind me, like trying to chirp at him because he was missing so many shots. And it was working, I guess, because I mean the guy played 23 minutes and scored 0 points on 0 for 9 from the floor. So
Tony Snell
Latrell
out there.
Reed, Latrell Reed, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry for the abuse that the student section gave you, but I mean, looking at an offensive rating of 6 versus, looking at someone who played big minutes, Noah Fernandes at 132, Antoine Woolfolk 189, Gavin Griffiths 138, Austin Williams played 12 minutes. He had a 200. So, yeah, not great things, but yeah,
Get
even
Austin
when
Williams
we're,
more minutes.
yeah, I will say it feels like he does need to get back into his groove, because he was injured for a couple games, missed a couple games. This was his first game back. It seems like he's still trying to figure out his role on offense. Defensively, I think he'll be fine. He's a strong defender on his own, and I think, if you play strong defense on your own, you can fit in Pikel's defensive system as well. I think he's still trying to figure out where he fits on offense because he's a scoring guard who's still trying to get his legs under him after, he had a knee injury. I'm not sure if it was the same knee or the same injury that caused him to miss the last couple of games, but it seems like he's, I guess, I don't want to say missing a step, but it feels like he has an extra gear based on what he looked like at Hartford. Now, granted, that was 3 years ago, but still, I think with more time and more, playing time with his teammates, I think he'll fit in better. And I think he'll find his role offensively, no matter what lineup he's in. So I'm definitely looking forward to continuing to see these pieces gel together.
Yeah, for sure. And like we said before with Mag, he comes back, it changes the rotation a little bit. One of Oscar or Austin's going to get, the axe, or no pun intended with Rutgers, you know what I'm saying? They're going to get the axe minutes wise, or maybe Hyatt doesn't play 28 minutes a night. Who knows? We don't know when Mag's coming back. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But yeah, it's nice to have pretty much everyone else playing and playing at a pretty high level. So as we head into our first conference game of the season against Illinois, things are trending in the right direction. And I don't want to forget, Antoine Woolfolk hit his first career 3-pointer against St. Peter's, and that was a beautiful shot. Like it wasn't like, you remember when Cliff hit one against Illinois, and I was like, okay, but it was like, that looked a little clunky. Like it looked nice, but it looked clunky because his shot release is so slow. Like Woolfolk's like, holy, where did that come from? And if he starts hitting that shot, I mean, I think personally, and maybe this is a hot take, I think he has the highest in terms of professional basketball. He has the highest upside of any guy on the team. But the upside is only unlocked if he can hit a 3. If he can't hit a 3, he'll never make it to the NBA. If he can hit a 3, he has the rebounding ability, he has the athleticism, and he has this dribbling. Like he can dribble. You've seen him in the open court. He made a no look pass to somebody. I don't know who it was. I think it was like Noah or something. Like he has all the tools. It just, can he shoot? If he could shoot, sky's the limit.
I am glad someone else saw that no look pass because I thought it was just me. And yeah, you're right. I mean, he pulled up and earlier on in the game, he he was at the perimeter and he, did a little ball fake. And I was like, are they really falling for that? Like, you're not going to shoot the 3. And then he got the ball in the corner wide open and he shot the 3 and it looked really pretty and he drained it. So I was like, all right, maybe we have something here. Maybe they try to draw some more stuff up, but yeah, I still think he'll be coming off the bench when Mag comes back. The fit is still leaves a little bit to be desired between him and Cliff, but I mean, they're working on it. One lob, like Antoine had another lob to Cliff that led to a Sports Center top play this week. So
almost
that was
led to a
pretty
Cliff
cool.
injury too.
Yeah, I was very scared when he got his legs cut under him, but thankfully he held onto the rim enough that nothing happened. But yeah, thank goodness for that. But yeah, I mean, it feels like every single game or every like 2 or 3 games he's doing something that makes you like look like, where did this come from? Or like, I didn't know he had this in him, but let's see it. We'll see if it continues. And continuing on into, like you mentioned, this conference opener against Illinois, it's going to be a big game. 4 p.m. tip off Saturday afternoon. Jersey Mike's Arena is going to be absolutely rocking. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I brought my boss to the Rutgers St. Peter's game, and I think he's like 70 years old. And the last Rutgers game, or not last college basketball game he went to, was a Seton Hall game. And I felt bad because it was like, I'm bringing you to the rack, and it's like a 60% like operational, environment. They're not going. Nobody was going crazy. It wasn't the most highlight worthy game. So I was like, I feel bad. If you came in a week, you'd understand why everyone hypes up Jersey Mike's Arena. But yeah, I'm excited. 4 p.m. versus the Illini. Is it a blackout, a scarlet out? Is it white out? Do we know anything?
I don't think there's a particular theme. I don't think, at least as of right now, I don't think so. But I think the theme is just to wear red, and then I think the theme every game is just be as loud as possible.
And get Brad Underwood frustrated and cursing off his players.
Oh, that would be
Yeah. So
hilarious.
with Illinois, I'm scared about a couple things. Uh, they have two guys on their team that I really like in the couple games I've watched them play. One being Coleman Hawkins. I know we spoke before. He might have a knee injury, but I think he's playing, or maybe he missed the first couple games this season. The other one is Dane Danger. He was a Baylor transfer, I believe. Maybe. I'll look it up real quick if I can get to his page. He's from Minnesota, but he went, I think he went to Baylor, and then, yeah, he went to Baylor as a freshman. Then Illinois is like a top 50 recruit. Kid is unbelievably skilled. He's 270 pounds. Like, it's like I want to say like Miles Johnson, because they're not comparable at all. But it's like one of those guys are like, a guy that big shouldn't be this fluid and shouldn't be this skilled. And it's like Travion Williams, but that's pretty much who he reminds me of. So yeah, Cliff's gonna have to stay out of foul trouble, because if I mean, Wolf is an upgrade over Reber. I remember I think Reber got abused by this guy last year. So Cliff's got to stay out of foul trouble. It's going to be a defensive battle. I wouldn't be surprised. If you're into betting, hammer the under. I don't think this game's going to reach higher than like 135. I have no idea what the over under is. I'm just guessing here. But yeah, Shannon, Danger, and Hawkins are the big three for me. Hawkins, I at 6'9", incredibly skilled. I think he has an NBA future. Maybe might be one of those guys that has to work his way up from the G League. And then, as we know, Terrence Shannon can go off for like 30 in any game. I'm confident in our defense's ability to keep him not from going off for 30, but it'll definitely be a challenge for them.
Yeah, I'm very curious in this game because, looking at Illinois this year, they're 5-1 now. Their only loss was only by 7 to Marquette. I believe that was on their home floor too. So this team, they have a lot of talent, but it's kind of some of the similar problems that they had last year. And even in years past, can they shoot, and do they have a point guard? And that's been the biggest question. They lost Jaden Epps. He transferred, like we talked about, to Georgetown. Now they have Ty Rodgers in that point guard spot, and he's kind of, I don't want to say out of position, but he's like, it feels like he's not the true point guard for this team. They did get Quincy Guerrier from Syracuse, I believe, and he's a pretty Syracuse and then Oregon, and now he's at Illinois. Okay, yeah, I did have that right.
He's a world traveler.
Exactly. Yeah, going from Syracuse to Oregon to Illinois, it doesn't get like much more different than that. So yeah, I mean, those are the guys to look out for, especially Danger and Hawkins. Hawkins is extremely talented. We were talking before, he almost came to Rutgers, but I think Brad Underwood swooped in and took him from us. But yeah, Danger. I mean, I remember last year when Rutgers went out to Illinois to play them, I could not believe that Rutgers was getting eaten alive down low by this 6'9", 270-pound guy. Who looks almost like a left tackle, but moves really fluidly. And he's just gotten better from there on. I'm kind of worried about what's going to go on with him, but I think Rutgers has the home court advantage. First off, obviously, I don't think Illinois has won at Jersey Mike's Arena since like 2017 or something like that.
I think
I
they
don't know
won
if I'm
once.
exactly
They're
right.
like, I saw they're like 4-1 or something. I don't remember what year they won, but I think they did win once.
Yeah. So they got that advantage. I mean, last time Illinois came to Jersey Mike's Arena, it was the blackout game, one of the best environments that I had ever seen in the building. Truly, like it was Rutgers ended up winning by double digits. They got in Kofi Coburn's head, things like that. So they have that advantage. I also think they have the advantage in terms of defense as well, even though Illinois is a great defensive team. If you look at KenPom right now, I believe that Illinois is 10 and Rutgers is 11 in terms of adjusted defensive efficiency. They're literally separated by 0.1 right now. But I think Rutgers has the advantage right now just because their personnel is still gelling together. And yeah, I think that's kind of where they have the advantage. They're 31.4% from three as a team, so that's not great. Granted, Rutgers is only 28.7, so that's even worse. But I think Rutgers is going to be able to just stymie them on offense and do enough on defense. I agree. It's not going to be a very pretty or high scoring game. I just think that Rutgers has the personnel to beat this team. And whether Mawat Mag is back or not, I still think either way they can have the personnel to beat this team. But we're talking about earlier, like the St. Peter's game, the rebounding has to improve because given how 22 offensive, I don't think Illinois is going to miss that many shots to get the opportunity to grab 22 offensive rebounds. That's still not going to get it done. So it's going to be on all five guys to get on the boards, box out your man, and just grab it from him, because it felt like there was a lot, not like bad bounces, but just bounces where you're thinking like, why wasn't there a defender there? So that's going to have to be improved. And knowing Peichel, he's definitely going to try to hammer that. So we'll just have to see if it translates on game day.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. In terms of the bad bounces, it felt like for the first five or not so much against St. Peter's, that was more so just like, long rebounds and stuff like that. It felt like that Rutgers was playing a game of pinball. I mean, every time they go for a rebound, it bounce off three guys' hands and then end up somewhere that wasn't red or white, whatever color Rutgers was wearing that night. And it was just like I know in hockey they have puck luck. I guess in basketball, whatever it is, bounce luck or whatever. But yeah, it was like every rebound was like a game of pinball, and it was like, where is this ball going to land? So I think they're like we've said 5 times already. If Mag comes back, it'll help the rebounding, will help everything. I think it'll help offensive efficiency. No idea if he's coming back before Saturday or not. The other thing I think that's important for Rutgers is they've been through the first 6 games of the season, they've been a slow starting team. I think in every game, pretty much every game, it's like the first 2 minutes they barely score, and then they start to like build up, and then every game except for Princeton, they've gone on this big run, like 13-0 against St. Peter's, or I think there was like a 16-2 against Georgetown. Like you're not going to have these kill shots, as I think they're called, in Big Ten play. Maybe you might have 1 or 2 here or there, but you're not going to consistently. You can't rely on getting a kill shot or 2 kill shots against Illinois. So you got to start fast. You got to start, hitting some shots early. And as well as I do, you get up 8-2, 10-2, 12-4 in the rack, that place will go nuts. So it's the first big home game for Rutgers this year, bigger than Georgetown, obviously. Hopefully the Ranked Reapers can strike again. I'll definitely be wearing my Ranked Reapers shirt. Shout out Night and Day Apparel for free advertising. I'm looking forward to it. Hoping we can get a win, and then I think it's a big week for us. We have Illinois, Wake Forest, and Seton Hall in the next 8 days.
Yeah, that's the gauntlet of the schedule, at least the non-conference schedule, non-conference/conference schedule right there. Because Illinois, and then Wednesday you're traveling to Wake Forest, and it's not very often you see Rutgers play a true road game in the non-conference slate, so it's kind of like a rarity there. I'm still not sure what to make of. Wake Forest. I mean, they lost Damari Monsato. That's a big loss for them, but they did get who's the guard that they got? His name is escaping me now. It was Hunter Salas from Gonzaga. That's who it was. When I saw that, I was like, wait, how did they get this guy? Steve Forbes is a crazy good offensive coach, especially when it comes to guards. So that kind of worries me a little bit. But yeah, that's going to be a big game. Seton Hall, it's kind of hard to overestimate how big of a game that is on the revenge tour, going back to the Rock, somewhere where you haven't won in almost a decade. That feels like a must-win game, especially for a Seton Hall team, which they're better than they were last year, but they're still not to the level that Rutgers should be right now. So that's going to be a huge game. And it seems like Rutgers is not getting a whole lot of love from the Seton Hall ticket department, because as far as I can tell, there's not a lot of tickets available at the Rock. And of course, they don't want to open the upper deck because they don't want Rutgers fans invading it. So that's a game that I don't want to say it's a must win, but you kind of need that game, especially after the loss to Princeton. If we're looking way big picture, we're talking resumes, which is it's definitely way too early to start talking about, but kind of need to stack these wins up, especially for a Seton Hall team that we don't know where they're going to go. They could improve in Big Ten play or Big East play, or they could kind of fall back down to the wayside. So getting games like toss-up games like these are going to be really important. All three of these games are really toss-ups.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like we said, going into the Georgetown game, you have to win that game if you want any chance of making the tournament. If you want, I don't want to say if you want any chance of making the tournament, but if you want a good chance of making the tournament, you got to come out of this next week 2-3. If you, it's one of those like I want to beat Illinois, I want to beat all of them. I want to go 3-0. If I choose, I want to beat Seton Hall, so you have to beat Seton Hall. I think beating Wake is worth more than beating Illinois at home because it's a road win. But Illinois is probably going to end up being a top 25 team this year. So which one do you want? Do you want the road win or do you want the ranked win? We got to 2-3 is probably the benchmark because then we have Mississippi State coming in a couple weeks, in between the cupcakes. So a minimum you have to go 2-2 in those 4 big games in December. We got started off great with Illinois and then hope for the best. But I think this team has the pieces to get a bid. I don't want to keep saying it comes down to Mag. I just think Mag helps with a lot of the deficiencies. I think putting him into the starting lineup over Wolf helps. The rebounding, you're not going to lose much of. It's going to help in the offense. We already see whether you look at Ken Palm, Bartorvik, whatever analytics, Rutgers has another year of another top 20 defense. But their offense is like 200. You get that offense to like top 75, top 100, like it should be, you're a tournament team with a top 5 defense. I think putting Mag in the lineup does that. I think getting the rotation down to like an 8 or 9 guy rotation of your best 9 players does that. And once we get fully healthy and get everyone going at full speed, I think this team will take off. I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten. I'm not saying they're going to even get a double bye in the Big Ten. They can finish 8th in the Big Ten and make the NCAA tournament. It's just everything has to come together for them.
And one guy we haven't even talked about, I don't think, is Gavin Griffiths. And he's coming along just a little bit slowly, but he'll always have like 1 or 2 plays where your jaw drops. Like, wow, whether it's, catch and shoot 3 from 3 feet behind the 3-point line or goes up for a dunk or, things like that. So he's also going to be key, I think, whether it's off the bench or maybe he's good enough to get put in the starting lineup. I don't know for sure, but he's going to be key down the stretch in some of these games to make big shots and create some of his own offense because he has a great offensive game. He can shoot over anybody, and he's a really good shooter at that as well. So he also has some really good creation skills anyways. So I think he's going to be the key offensively to really, prove the depth of this team, I think.
Yeah, and these games coming up are it's important for his development. Going off for 25 against BU is great. But BU doesn't have a single guy on their team that's going to play professional basketball. They're all going to be lawyers, doctors, nurses, whatever the hell they're going to be. They're not going to be playing basketball after college. These games against Illinois and Wake Forest and Seton Hall, I'm not saying he has to go for 18 points, but if he can get you 9, get you 12, get you 14, that's where his development's going to really show, and that's where we're going to need him the most. So maybe he has a big moment. I'm hoping for a big moment. I think he's already a crowd favorite, even though he got a haircut. It was a little. I don't know what you think about the haircut. It was shocking to see him. I was like, what happened to the long locks he had or whatever? But yeah, the guy. My buddy's bringing rec specs to the game on Saturday, so we'll be ready.
Yeah, I saw he also debuted the long sleeves too, so maybe that's a new look for him too. But
Yeah,
a lot to.
He used all his VC in 2K on accessory upgrades.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, a lot to look forward to. This is a huge stretch, and I don't think we're overstating just how important it is for the future of this team to not only like win these games just for, getting to the tournament, but also growing as a team and developing some of those pieces that may be here for a while. Even those that won't be here for a while, just developing them this year is going to be key. I think this is a big start in doing that before the conference schedule really gets going and the grind of the Big Ten schedule. The best league in the country, as Steve Pike likes to say, even though it may not be totally true this year, is fully underway. So, any last thoughts before we say so long before this gauntlet?
No, just hoping for a couple victories to start out December, and yeah, that's all we could hope for at this point.
Yeah,
And maybe a
yeah.
couple more sound bites from Pike.
It's always nice. It's always nice to hear from him. But yeah, I guess that's for me. It's yeah. I think you're right. Go 2-1 in this stretch. I would say I would rather a win over. It's so tough to say because you're going against a home win against a better team versus a road loss versus a road win versus a not as good team that you already beat by 30 last year. So I guess we'll see. I will see. I'm still not sure which one I would prefer, but Seton Hall is a must, obviously.
Well, for the resume, you want a win over Illinois, and you want to win over probably Seton Hall. Well, I guess for the resume and for the heart, you want Illinois and Seton Hall. I think Wake Forest ends up being worse than Seton Hall. I don't know what the Ken Palm says, but I thought they might have been split when I started that thought. But whatever two are the highest Ken Palm teams, that's what you want for the resume. For the heart, you want to beat Seton Hall and Illinois. If you lose to an ACC team, it is what it is.
Yeah. As of right now, it has Wake Forest at 83 and Seton Hall at 62. So we'll see. We'll see. But for Mike, I'm Alec saying so long in the second episode of the Pikes Place Hoops Market podcast. Again, be sure to follow us on all podcast platforms and on Twitter at Pikes Place Pod. We'll see you in the next one, hopefully with some more Rutgers wins.